Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Tuesday, August 5th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Texas game in 25 days, the game against Michigan in 116 days. If you're planning your next event, make it unforgettable with Grateful Griddle, Columbus's favorite food truck, serving up smash burgers, gourmet sandwiches, and good vibes. Book your catering today at GratefulGriddleOH.com. That Texas game in just 25 days is going to be number 1 versus number 2 in the nation, at least according to the nation's college football coaches. Coaches poll dropped on Monday. Texas number 1, Buckeyes number 2. So yes, that uber mega hyped anticipated matchup week 1 in the Horseshoe may be getting just a little bit more anticipated. We're looking forward to that, but we've got a lot of stuff to look forward to between now and then as well, as the Buckeyes continue with their fall camp. They had 3 practices Thursday, Friday, Saturday last week. We got to see all of those. Got a chance to talk to Ryan Day after the first one. Got a chance to talk to Matt Patricia and Brian Hartline after the second one. On yesterday's show, you get to hear from Matt Patricia. Today, going to get to hear from Brian Hartline about a bunch of different stuff. We're going to start with just some real basic ones, just some first impressions from fall camp.
Opening impressions, I would say that, I think we don't really ever have a day one anymore. We do so much in the off season. So it's just a continuation of spring into summer. And really, I think, if anything, we've had a great summer. I think the guys have gotten bigger, stronger, faster. Now their job is to apply that to the game, take those new either acquired skills or exposed talent, I like to say, and now implement it to your production on the field. So we've had a good summer, and now we're just making sure we're getting locked in on not just lifting weights, but maintaining our bodies and really getting really good at execution, competition, and developing the foundation for a great offense.
Hartline was the offensive coordinator a couple of years ago, but didn't actually call plays this year. Now he is calling plays as well, and that's a really kind of a change for him. He obviously was a wide receiver at Ohio State and then has been the wide receiver coach at Ohio State. So he's been mostly focused on that room. Now that he's calling plays, well, he's got to focus on the rest of the offense as well, including the quarterbacks. How has his relationship with that quarterback room changed since he took on his new role?
Yeah, it's been great. I think the dialogue that all started, really more in the spring to continue that into the summer, a good amount, but then to get into fall camp and really be more hands-on has been enjoyable. Having opportunities to play some, pool basketball with some of these guys and let them get competitive and they can feel me get competitive. I think, again, I'm not in the world of trying to force anything, just let it happen organically, but I think, it's been really positive so far. I like to think that, but never going to assume. And we got a great room, so it's an easy process to be involved with those guys.
Most of the freshmen and new faces on Ohio State's team were here in the spring, but there are a few exceptions. One of those is Turbo Rodgers. He's the running back out of Alabama. He showed up over the summer, and he's already made quite an impression on some folks. Pretty impressive in some limited opportunities to see him last week. Now, it is hard to evaluate running backs when no one is tackling, but what are Brian Hartline's early impressions of Turbo Rodgers so far?
Yeah, I think Turbo, he's learning right now. I mean, he's learning, number one, who we are and how we operate. I mean, not that he's defiant by any means, but just there's a time aspect that has to take place. And anytime you kind of come in the summer, there's always just a curveball. It takes a little bit of time that the winter and the spring can help you get acclimated to, that you don't get exposed to. But no, he's very willing. He's hardworking. I'm sure he's studying at a high level, but he's getting acclimated to first, how we do things before he really knows kind of what he's doing, right? So, but great personality, good energy. I'm excited to have him here.
This is the third season for Brandon Inniss at Ohio State. He came in with the 5-star wide receiver hype and was sort of broadly expected to take over for Emeka Egbuka last year when Emeka Egbuka left following the 2023 season for the pros. Well, small problem. Emeka Egbuka came back last year for one more year, and yeah, that worked out just fine for the Buckeyes as they won the national championship. But it did mean Brandon Inniss had another year in a backup role. Now Emeka Egbuka is officially off to the NFL, and it is Brandon Inniss time in the slot for Ohio State. So what is Brian Hartline expecting from Brandon Inniss this year?
Yeah, I think, like everybody, the ceiling's is the clouds. There really is no ceiling. It's only what he limits himself to. But I expect to see a great leader. I expect a guy that did everything he did last year, but then some, add more to it. He's definitely a guy that can carry a lot of roles and do a lot of things, but you can't let the execution slip because you can do a lot of things, I wouldn't say in an average way, but you do too many things and you're not an expert at something. So he's got to make sure that we stay sharp that way, but I expect him to be a leader. I expect him to be really a person that pushes our culture and allows our culture to grow and bring guys along. Some guys take care of themselves. Some guys can take care of themselves and bring guys along. I expect Brandon to be one of those guys, and he's shown so far that not only is he capable, but he really wants to be that guy. So, but body of work over time will ultimately tell us.
Another player who is taking on a bigger role this year is Austin Seiler. He obviously was playing in sort of a rotational role as they were sort of shuffling three different guards around on last year's offensive line during the playoff. But now he has added a couple new honors to his trophy case, his personal trophy case since then. He was named an Iron Buckeye during the winter workouts. He was named an Iron Buckeye during the summer workout. So that's usually a pretty good portender of success on the field in the fall. So what can Austin Seiler bring to the team this season?
Yeah, I think Austin's always had a good demeanor about him, and I think he's elevated that even more. I think it feels like there's been a lot of belief that he's instilled in himself, just seeing himself do that, over time. And, really, he's just been really impressive. He's one of those guys, in my opinion, that you just don't talk about a lot because he does everything right, and when you're playing O-line, you're always at the point of attack. So it's easy to get exposed. If people are talking about you a lot, it's usually not a good thing. And Austin is the complete opposite. So we'll make sure to identify all these great things he's doing, but he just continually does his job at a high level. And, I expect that to continue. I expect that to develop more and more into a leadership role, which we already feel. And, be a mainstay and bringing along that O-line group, which we're excited about. So Austin's a big part of that.
Talked about Brandon Inniss earlier in terms of his on-field impact on what he could bring to the Buckeyes this year. But what about off the field? He's already sort of been a little bit of a leader in that wide receiver room even before he was playing starter minutes. So what is his off-field impact going to be like this fall?
Yeah, Brandon's always been a big part of our room, receiver-wise, culturally. He drives it. He helps run it. Carnell has taken a big role in that as well this year. Frankly, all those guys are stepping up. I mean, Carnell, JJ, David Adolph, these guys have made progressions. But from a leadership standpoint, those guys are really trying to take over with BI being at the forefront of that. So I expect that, and that's good. And he holds himself to a high standard, but I want him to start bringing even more and more guys along in that same fashion.
I think we all have a pretty good sense what Jeremiah Smith can do when the football is in his hands. That generally involves lots of catches, lots of yards, and lots of touchdowns. But what about when he doesn't have the ball in his hands? How can he impact the game and maybe even change the game without having the football?
I think that best thing Jeremiah does is just he just always wants to learn. So, as a coach, you can't baby him. You can't put him on a pedestal. He does not want that. So, he being held accountable. There have been opportunities to maybe finish more without the ball in your hands, turn upfield. I identify it and he applies it. So. I'm not going to say there's one individual thing when the ball's not in his hands. I think just overall for him, he's always trying to learn. He's always trying to contribute, whether he's he knows there's a decoy-ish mentality or a blocking mentality because he's a big guy or whatever that role is. He just loves learning the why and then applying it in that role and that play.
All right, we've talked about Brandon Inniss. We've talked about Jeremiah Smith. Let's talk about the third starting wide receiver, Carnell Tate. He has taken some big steps to be a leader this offseason. That's something that Ryan Day talked about late last week. Is that something that Carnell Tate maybe had to get pushed into doing a little bit by the coaching staff?
No, it's more him for sure. There's probably a conversation that was had, obviously, that, we know you're capable of this. Why not be this guy? Whatever those conversations are between myself and Coach Mick and Coach Day. But ultimately, players apply. Players choose to do things. We can recommend and suggest all we want, But ultimately, the players are responsible for making plays and making changes. So, yeah, I would agree with Coach. I mean, he's made huge strides. I love him for it. He's the right kind of guy for it. He's the right kind of role. Really no BS kind of guy. And a lot of guys have a lot of respect for him. So, doing a great job. Absolutely love it. I'm glad those conversations that had were received, and I'm glad to see he's really taking the reins of it and ran with it.
All right, we have checked the boxes for the 3 starting wide receivers. Now let's talk about some of the other wide receivers on the team. Guys like maybe Bryson, Rodgers, Mylan, Graham. That second group of wide receivers, not necessarily starters, but guys who maybe have a chance to make an impact this fall. Is there maybe an opportunity for those guys to get into the rotation at wide receiver this year?
Yeah, there's always a chance. I mean, there's so many reps being had in practice, and you're either, playing at the level of the guys that are starting or you're not. Ultimately, that's what it comes down to, right? So if you can match, the execution level and or better or whatever, I mean, ultimately the film tells you who should be on the field on Saturdays and at what point in the game, and whether it be situationally or not. And guys maximizing those rep opportunities ultimately dictates how that looks, right? So we've got lots of reps early in spring. I mean, we got 2 fields going. We got tons of reps happening. And more times than not, it kind of shows itself. I view that frankly every year. It's the same opportunity, but those guys just have to do it. And we love defining roles, but guys define roles, and they earn roles. And if you keep it that way, ultimately the respect in your room and in your position room on your team should stay true. And so. A lot of competition right now, a lot of good stuff happening. We're just going to try to see who does it more consistently over time.
Feels like every time we talk about Mylan Graham, we talk about one of 2 things. Number one, boy, the potential. Boy, he's flashing, what he could be ultimately. And then the second thing is, well, you got to remember, he showed up last summer and really was sort of a little behind the 8 ball last year, really didn't play a lot, but a lot of that had to do with the fact that he wasn't there until the summer. So, okay, now he's got a whole year under his belt at this point. How much did that cost him last year? Has he caught up now? Having gone through now a winter, having gone through a spring at Ohio State, is that, having shown up last summer, is that sort of behind him now? And maybe where has Mylan Graham grown the most this year?
Yeah, I think him going through his first spring really helped him. First winter really helped him. Being grounded for a summer, instead of like showing up and having acclimation for a month before you actually get into it. I mean, all of those things, almost makes you feel like you're in your 3rd year. Like for Jeremiah or these young guys that came in this year to come in January, by the time you get to your 2nd year, you almost feel like it's your 3rd year because you've, worked with Coach Mick, you've had a spring, you've had a summer, you've had a fall camp, you've had a fall season, and you're like, gosh, it's only my 2nd year. I would say when you come in June, it's still all new until you get back to June. And so that's what, Mylan experienced. Mylan now, I mean, he fully understands. Like when you're there, you don't understand it. I'm good. Well, you don't realize it. So, but yes, I mean, to answer your question long-windedly, I'd say that Mylan's in a really good spot. He's put himself in a position to compete for getting on the field, whether it be offensively or special teams. I expect him to earn roles in special teams even before you even get on offense. That's how we're built here, right? Defensively and offensively. If you can't get on special teams, I don't know how you expect to play offense and defense. So, the guys on special teams are the best football players, period. So those guys, I like to see Mylan in that light, but obviously he had a great spring. He's growing, and I want to see him keep building on what he's doing. We don't want to have step backs. I know he's not going to. I'm just saying the progression he's on is really good.
Brian Hartline, of course, was a wide receiver as a player at Ohio State and as a player in the NFL, and he was a wide receiver coach at Ohio State when he started his career there as well, still is. But now he's the offensive coordinator. So you would assume, okay, a wide receiver, he's going to sort of be predisposed to sort of favor the pass, get the ball in the hands of those wide receivers. Obviously has a lot of talent there, but you got to remember, you got to run a little bit of a balanced offense there as well. Well, Tyler Bowen is someone who came in and may be able to be sort of help with that. Tyler Bowen, the offensive line coach, former play caller at Virginia Tech. He's also has the title of the run game coordinator. So what has Tyler Bowen brought to the Ohio State coaching staff in Brian Hartline's eyes?
Yeah, really enjoyed getting to know Tyler. I think really highly of his football IQ and his personality and how he, commands with his room and his guys and how he builds relationships. The overall, having Tyler in the building has been really a great honor, a great situation.
If you want to try and get an Ohio State coach to tell you who they think is ahead in the quarterback battle, I wish you the very best of luck. That has not been something that anyone has been able to really get out of a coach on the record this fall, but you can get them to tell you what they're looking for out of the quarterbacks. What's going to determine who wins that job, even if they're not willing to tell you who they think is going to win that job. So, all right, what is the coaching staff looking for out of quarterbacks in camp this year?
Consistency. What you do most often is exactly who you are. So whether you consistently make the play, consistently communicate, consistently loud, consistently have energy, consistently prepare well, whatever that is, the consistency level of anybody ultimately dictates your identity. So we're chasing that. It's too early right now to speak past that, but we're going to keep building.
One of the things that the wide receivers talked about earlier last week was the fact that some of the wide receivers and quarterbacks got together out in California to spend some time together, get to know each other, all that kind of stuff. So how much does that help being able to just spend time together? Yeah, you're working on timing, but you're also sort of building relationships. How much does that actually help when you get on the field for fall camp?
Yeah, I think anytime you can work together, guys are getting a feel for each other. Not only just, he throws the ball like this. It's more about the camaraderie. He has my back. More than anything, you can't challenge a relationship if you don't have a relationship. So you can't challenge a guy. You can't be at a guy. You can't get, push a guy unless the relationship is built first. So the faster you get the relationship built, the quicker you can get to uncomfortable conversations, and then ultimately you grow. So building the foundation is still number one, and those guys doing that on their own is a good sign.
Earlier in the show, you heard Brian Hartline kind of mention in passing playing pool basketball with the quarterbacks and the wide receivers in his pool at his house. So what can you learn about a guy in a setting like that? Yeah, it's not even real basketball, but what can you learn about a guy and his competitiveness, maybe playing some pool basketball against him?
Oh, lots. It was awesome. We're playing pool basketball and we're literally trying to drown each other to win. We didn't care, right? I mean, there was no fouls. We just want to know who could execute and make the plays, coaches included. And literally when I say nothing was off limits, there was nothing off limits. So the guys kind of who show up, the guys that compete, the guys, all that stuff, right? I mean, my poor son, he gets evaluated on everything he does. It doesn't matter, and every coach is probably that way. But anytime you're around people, man, it's just human nature if you're wired that right. But it was a lot of fun.
And just because I'm sure everyone wants to know, Brian Hartline said a team of Carnell Tate, Brandon Inniss, and Lincoln Keenholz really kind of ran things in that pool basketball competition. They said they won something like 7 games in a row before Brian Hartline and Jeremiah Smith and a team with those guys on it helped finally unseat them. He said they may have been a little tired after so many games in a row. So there you go. If you happen to have Carnell Tate and Brandon Inniss and Lincoln Keenholz challenge you to pool basketball, just know probably in for a little bit of a challenge. So there you go. Something else that may be a little bit of a challenge, waiting for that Texas game mentioned earlier, 25 days, 1 versus 2. There's going to be so much to talk about, so much anticipation for that game. We are looking forward to it. Sure you are too. If you want to spend the next 25 days taking a deep dive on that game, on this season, on recruiting, we invite you to join us at BuckeyeHuddle.com. That's where we have our whole team covering the Buckeyes, covering recruiting, covering X's and O's, plus a really fun and active community. The Huddle Board presented by Jeff Ruby's Columbus. That is all at BuckeyeHuddle.com. We hope to see you there. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.